Imagine keeping a diary every single day for 30 years. I mean, you aren't just recording what you ate for breakfast or, the mundane details of your commute.
Right, the boring stuff.
Exactly. Instead, you are meticulously mapping out the exact blueprint of how your own mind tortures you. You document every spiral of anxiety, every bubbling resentment, and every physical ache that follows a really stressful day.
Yeah, that is a heavy undertaking.
It is. But more importantly, over the course of 3 decades, you document exactly how to hack your own mind to make it stop. So, welcome to today's deep dive, everyone. We are really getting into something special today.
We really are. Looking at an archive like this, it's essentially watching a time lapse of human resilience. We're talking about a continuous, deeply personal record spanning from 1996 all the way to 2026.
That's 10,000 days.
Yeah, roughly 10,000 days. And it is incredibly rare to see someone track their own cognitive behavioral evolution over that much time, especially because a lot of the modern psychological terminology for what they were doing didn't even exist yet.
The sheer volume of it is staggering. If you were to sit down and read through all of this, you'd see the daily grind, the inevitable interpersonal conflicts, the financial anxiety.
Oh, absolutely. The messy human stuff.
Right. But for this deep dive, we're drawing a very hard line. We are not here to get bogged down in the specific names or the geography or, the superficial day-to-day drama.
Yeah, no gossip today.
Exactly. You won't hear us tracking who said what at which dinner party. Instead, our mission is to extract a profound yet really practical psychological toolkit that this author developed to deal with all that stress.
The diaries reveal someone who essentially became a self-taught architect of their own mental peace.
I love that phrase.
Thanks. Yeah, what emerges from thousands of pages is this cohesive, almost mechanical framework for survival. And it centers around a very vivid metaphor.
The cauldron.
Yes, exactly. The author calls it the cauldron, or kazan. And they combine this metaphor with a physical ritual of sending love to the past and actively thanking the future.
Okay, so before we can talk about hacking the timeline and changing how we experience the past or the future, we kind of have to establish what's happening right now. Like, where do our daily thoughts actually go?
Right, the baseline.
Yeah. And that brings us directly to the author's core concept. The mind is an iron cauldron.
So visualize a massive, really heavy iron pot sitting over a constantly burning fire. This is your mind. Every single thought you have, every passing annoyance, every complaint you utter.
Every little emotional reaction throughout the day.
Exactly, all of it. These are all ingredients that you are actively tossing into this pot.
Yeah.
And the author's diaries are just full of entries where they notice the exact ingredients they're cooking with on any given Tuesday.
And reading through it, it becomes really clear that not all ingredients are created equal, right?
Definitely not.
The author spends a significant amount of time writing about interactions with certain difficult relatives. And I think we all know the type.
Oh, yeah. The ones who drain you?
Right. These are relatives who live just a little too close. They gossip incessantly. They manufacture drama out of thin air. And they frequently cause real financial stress.
A classic triggers.
Exactly. And the author notices that just being in the same room as these relatives or, even just anticipating a phone call from them leads to these incredibly dense, angry, resentful thoughts.
And this is where the author makes a really crucial observation about the mechanics of this mental cooking process.
Yeah.
When those specific, highly charged negative thoughts about the relatives are thrown into the cauldron, the emotional intensity of the resentment acts as an accelerant.
Like throwing gasoline on the fire.
Literally. It turns up the heat under the pot. As these toxic ingredients boil and break down, the author visualizes these dark juices, like these toxic oils, dripping down to the very bottom of the cauldron.
Ah, that's such a visceral image.
It is. And that sludgy residue at the bottom of the pot, the author identifies that as the subconscious mind taking shape.
Wow. That is deeply uncomfortable to think about, but it makes so much sense. It's essentially like a slow cooker.
Yeah, a mental slow cooker.
Right. If you throw in rotten ingredients like deep, festering resentment over a relative's gossip or some financial manipulation, you can't just put the lid on, walk away, and pretend it isn't happening.
No. Yeah.
Because even if you go about your day and try to distract yourself, the whole house is eventually going to stink.
The environment completely absorbs it, yes. And the author documents how that stink didn't just manifest as like a bad mood or a short temper.
Right, it went further than that.
Much further.
Yeah.
It manifested as acute, verifiable physical illness. The diaries meticulously correlate periods of intense familial resentment with severe back pain, sudden foot issues, and chronic stomach problems.
Wait, really? The physical pain spiked with the drama.
Absolutely. The toxic broth they were brewing in their mind was quite literally leaking out into their nervous system and their physical tissues.
This is where we see the real-time personal discovery of the idea that the body keeps the score. The author is literally living through this mind-body connection.
Yeah, and it wasn't a gentle realization either.
No, definitely not. There's a specific period in the diaries, stretching back to 1993 and 1994, where the author goes through a severe depressive episode.
That 1993-1994 period is basically the crucible.
Right. It's during this really dark period that they hit a wall and have this massive aha moment regarding the cauldron.
Yeah, the author is suffering physically and mentally, and they realize something entirely paradigm shifting. Throwing anger into their mental cauldron doesn't harm the gossiping relatives at all.
Not even a little bit.
Right. The relatives are entirely unaffected. They are off living their lives, sleeping perfectly fine, completely oblivious to the roaring fire in the author's mind.
That is the ultimate insult to injury, isn't it? I mean, you are sitting there letting your blood pressure spike, destroying your own stomach lining over something they did, and they are probably, at a cafe enjoying a pastry.
Exactly. It's the realization that holding on to this anger is an act of pure self-sabotage. Cooking this toxic soup only poisons the chef.
Yeah. Oh.
And the author understands that no one is coming to save them from this depression. If the ingredients in the pot are making them sick, they are the only ones with the power to reach in and change what's being cooked.
So recognizing the poison is step one. But this immediately creates a logistical problem.
A big one, yeah.
Because if you realize your cauldron is already full of toxic ingredients from past grievances like the gossiping already happened, the financial stress already wreaked havoc, how do you clean a pot when the meal has already been cooked?
Yep.
You can't just rewind time and unhear an insult.
Right, the physical past is locked. But the author figures out that the energetic signature of that past event inside the cauldron is actually highly malleable.
Okay, energetic signature.
Yeah. Their solution is to actively send love to past negative thoughts to neutralize them.
Okay, hold on. I have to push back heavily on this because I know what you're listening to this might be thinking right now. Sending love to people who wronged you, to relatives who caused you immense stress, financial hardship, and literal physical pain.
I know how it sounds.
It sounds completely contradictory to human nature. It sounds like self-gaslighting or, at best, incredibly toxic positivity.
Sure.
Like, if a relative betrays my trust, my amygdala is flashing red, telling me danger. If I sit there and try to force myself to feel love for them, my brain knows I'm lying. How does the author bypass their own bullshit detector here?
That pushback is entirely justified, but it points to a critical misunderstanding of the author's method. You have to notice the phrasing the author uses in the diaries. They're not sending love to the relative.
Oh, they aren't.
No, not at all. They are not forgiving the person, validating the bad behavior, or pretending a painful event was actually a blessing in disguise.
Okay, then what are they loving?
The author is sending love to their own past thoughts. It is an internal chemical intervention, not an external olive branch.
Okay. Unpack that distinction for me. How does loving the thought differ from loving the person who caused it?
Think of it like a hazardous waste cleanup. The memory of the relative's betrayal is sitting in your cauldron like a pool of highly concentrated acid.
Right.
You aren't saying, I love the person who poured this acid here. You are looking at the acid itself, your own painful memory, and realizing that love is the only neurochemical base strong enough to neutralize the pH level.
Oh, wow.
It is a pure, unadulterated act of self-preservation. You are sending love to the wounded part of your own mind to stop the acid from burning a hole through the bottom of your pot.
So it's entirely selfish in the best possible way. You are doing it so you can survive.
Exactly.
But how do you practically execute that? Because when you are in the middle of a ruminating spiral about something that happened 10 years ago, you don't exactly have the cognitive bandwidth to sit down and visualize pH levels.
No, of course not. And the diaries show a really mechanical, somatic approach to this problem. The author developed a very specific physical rhythm to anchor the mental intervention.
A physical rhythm.
Yeah. They document tapping their fingers, almost like playing a piano scale, in a strict 1, 2, 3, 4 sequence. Every time they physically tap 1, 2, 3, 4, it serves as a mental shortcut for the phrase, I send love to my past thoughts.
Wait, why the physical tapping, though? Why not just say the phrase in your head?
The physical movement is actually the key to why this works. When you are ruminating, your brain is running a highly grooved neural pathway. It's a loop.
Right, you just get stuck in it.
Exactly. By introducing a physical rhythmic tapping, you are creating a somatic pattern interrupt. You are forcing your brain's working memory to dedicate resources to the physical movement of the fingers.
Oh, which disrupts the bandwidth available for the anxious thought.
Yes, the 1, 2, 3, 4 tapping pulls you out of the abstract memory and drops you forcefully back into your physical body in the present moment. And it simultaneously delivers that neutralizing message of love.
It's a brilliant hack. You overload the system just enough to break the loop.
Pretty much, yeah.
So using the 1, 2, 3, 4 method neutralizes the acid. The past is handled, the pain stops. But, a neutral baseline isn't exactly a happy life.
No, a clean pot is just an empty pot.
Exactly. So how did the author figure out how to actually brew something positive once the poison was gone?
Well, cleaning the past is the job of the cleanup crew. But to brew something positive, you need an architect. The diaries introduce the second half of the formula, thanking future experiences before they even happen.
Thanking the future.
Yeah. The author pairs the past-focused 1, 2, 3, 4 tap with a reverse, future-focused 4, 3, 2 rhythm.
So you tap 4, 3, 2, and that translates to the core belief, thank you for my future.
Right. And the philosophy of time expressed in these journals is fascinating. The author refuses to view time as a rigid conveyor belt that we are just passively strapped to, just waiting for events to hit us.
How did they view it then?
They view time as highly fluid. The future, whether it is an interaction happening 10 minutes from now or a major life event 10 years away, is constantly being assembled from the raw materials of our current expectations.
That makes me think of, going to a restaurant and leaving a massive $100 tip on the table before the chef has even started cooking.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
You haven't seen the food, you haven't tasted it, but you are leaving the tip because you are operating under the absolute certainty that they are making your favorite meal. You're setting the expectations so high and with so much upfront gratitude that you almost force the universe to deliver.
Leaving a tip in advance is close. But the author's diaries suggest it is actually deeper than that. It isn't just a passive hope.
Okay, deeper how?
Leaving that tip in the form of the 4-3-2 tapping literally forces the kitchen to go out and buy better ingredients. Psychologically, when you actively say thank you for a future that hasn't materialized yet, you are forcibly locking your brain into an optimistic trajectory.
But does it actually change the future, or does it just change the author's mood?
Well, by changing the author's perceptual filters, it practically changes the future.
Make that make sense.
Okay, so our brains have a filtering system that scans our environment and highlights information based on what we have programmed it to care about. If your cauldron is full of anxiety, your brain will scan a room and immediately spot the person who looks angry or, the potential for failure.
Right, because that's what you're primed for.
Exactly. But by actively tapping 4-3-2 and thanking the future, the author is instructing their brain to completely change its filtering parameters.
Yeah.
The brain begins to involuntarily scan the environment for hidden opportunities, positive micro-interactions, and solutions.
You are quite literally programming the cauldron to produce a reality based on happiness and health.
You really are.
So the complete toolkit is a 1-2 punch. First, 1, 2, 3, 4 to send love to the past, dropping the base into the acid to neutralize the poison.
Yeah.
Then immediately follow it with 4, 3, 2 to send gratitude to the future, forcing the brain's filtering system to scan for positive outcomes.
And this combination creates an incredibly resilient, energetic bubble around the present moment. When you read the later years of the journals, you see an author who just doesn't catastrophize when unexpected setbacks occur.
They just handle it.
Right, they don't spiral because they have already laid down this infrastructural foundation of gratitude for whatever comes next.
Now, all of this theory, the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 4, 3, 2, the cauldron, it sounds pristine when we discuss it analytically like this.
It sounds easy.
Right. But real life is incredibly messy. You can sit in a quiet room and tap your fingers and feel perfectly aligned, but what happens when you step out the front door and reality just hits you in the face?
Yeah, when the relatives actually call.
Exactly. How does this author actually apply this architecture in the heat of a chaotic moment?
This is where the true value of this 30-year archive shines. It doesn't shy away from the messy reality. The author provides incredibly vivid, mundane examples of fighting this battle minute by minute.
Actually, there is one specific entry that is just perfectly illustrative of this. It's not a major crisis, it's a completely ordinary afternoon.
Oh, the balcony entry.
Yes, the author describes sitting out on their balcony. The weather is beautiful, they have a hot cup of coffee, the environment is perfectly peaceful, they are entirely safe.
And then,
And then suddenly, completely unprompted, a rogue thought violently intrudes. It is a memory of those difficult relatives complaining about something petty.
the journals capture the physiological reality of that moment brilliantly. The physical environment hasn't changed at all, but internally the heart rate spikes. Cortisol floods the system.
The peace is ruined.
Totally. The physical piece of the balcony is instantly shattered by a ghost from the past.
So if we look at the author from the 1990s, the earlier version of this person, how would they have handled that balcony moment?
Oh, the 1990s version of the author would have let that rogue thought drop straight into the cauldron?
Just tossed it right in?
Yep. They would have spent the next 2 hours sitting on that beautiful balcony, entirely disconnected from the present moment, having vicious imaginary arguments with those relatives in their head.
We've all been there.
Right. They would have stoked the fire, turned up the heat, and brewed a massive batch of toxic broth, completely ruining their own afternoon, while the relatives remain blissfully unaware.
But the evolved author, the one who has mastered the toolkit, does something entirely different here.
They do. They feel that physiological spike, they see the memory of the relative forming, and instead of letting it cook, they deploy an immediate mental emergency brake.
And they use a very specific phrase for this.
Yes. The author uses the word ishakur, which translates to deepest gratitude.
The use of the phrase deepest gratitude in that split second is highly calculated, isn't it? Because I was wondering about that. Why gratitude?
It's a great question.
Like, if a painful or annoying memory pops up, why not just mentally shout stop or go away? Why default to gratitude?
Because the human nervous system cannot process profound, deep gratitude and intense defensive anger at the exact same time.
Really?
Yeah, they are biochemically incompatible states. Shouting stop just creates friction. It's fighting the thought with more aggression. But flooding the system with deepest gratitude acts as an immediate neutralizing override switch.
And the author pairs this phrase with a very specific visualization. The moment the negative image of the relative appears in their mind's eye, they mentally shout deepest gratitude and simultaneously visualize a glass screen violently cracking or like a television picture rapidly fading to black.
Bam! The screen shattered.
Exactly. The thought is instantly blocked from dropping into the cauldron.
The visual of the cracked screen is a really firm boundary. And as you read further, you realize the author extends this boundary from their internal thoughts to their external environment.
Oh, right, because it's not just your own thoughts that are the problem.
Exactly. They have this profound realization that simply sitting passively and listening to other people complain or gossip is the exact equivalent of letting a stranger walk up to your cauldron and toss rotten meat into your soup.
Man, that hits hard. Because so often we think we are just being polite. We nod along while an acquaintance complains for 20 minutes about their life.
Trying to be a good listener.
Right. But the author realizes the cauldron does not care where the ingredients come from. Your subconscious doesn't differentiate between your own toxic thoughts and the toxic words you passively absorb from others.
The meat is bad, and it's going to ruin the broth regardless.
Exactly. So the author essentially constructs an earthquake early warning system within their own psychology.
A really sensitive one.
Yeah. The moment a relative starts to manufacture drama, or even the moment the memory of that drama threatens to surface, the alarms trigger. They instantly deploy deepest gratitude, shatter the mental screen, and firmly lock down the heavy iron lead of their cauldron.
When you zoom out and look at the entirety of these diaries, from 1996 to 2026, the transformation is just breathtaking.
It really is.
The author starts as someone entirely at the mercy of their environment. They are highly reactive, physically sick, and constantly swept away by the emotional turbulence of their difficult relatives.
But decade by decade, entry by entry, they evolve.
They evolve into a fiercely self-aware individual who guards their inner peace with absolute precision. The ultimate shift documented in these pages is a shift in identity.
A shift in identity, how so?
The author learns to step back and view their own mind with total objectivity. They stop identifying with the ingredients. They stop believing that they are their anxious thoughts.
Ah,
They fully embody the role of the chef, realizing they have absolute authority to curate their own reality based on what they allow to simmer in the pot.
And that level of radical empowerment is something that translates to absolutely anyone listening, regardless of what chaos is happening in your external world or, who your relatives are.
Absolutely. It's universal.
So let's pull all of these threads together for you right now. We have journeyed through 30 years of one person's mind to extract a survival toolkit. We explored the heavy iron cauldron and the dangerous reality that the toxic broth of resentment only ever poisons the person cooking it.
We examine the mechanical precision of the 1-2-3-4 technique, using physical tapping to bypass your own resistance, sending a neutralizing base of love to your past thoughts to ensure they can no longer burn a hole in your present reality.
And we looked at the architecture of the future, the 4-3-2 method, leaving that energetic tip in advance, expressing profound gratitude for a future that hasn't happened yet, specifically to force your brain to scan the horizon for positive outcomes.
And finally, the emergency brake.
Right, using the phrase deepest gratitude to shatter the mental screen and stop a rogue spiral the exact millisecond it tries to ruin your afternoon coffee.
The true beauty of this archive is its accessibility.
Yeah.
You don't need a degree in psychology, and you certainly don't need to commit to writing in a diary for 10,000 days to utilize this framework.
Thankfully.
Right. You simply need to make the conscious decision to take radical responsibility for your internal environment.
You have to assume the role of the head chef. You have to ruthlessly curate what ingredients make it past the rim of the pot, because at the end of the day, you are the only one who has to consume what you cook.
So as you leave this deep dive and step back into the reality of your day, we want to leave you with one final question to explore on your own.
Take a moment and visualize your own cauldron right now. Picture it sitting over the fire.
Take a really honest inventory of the emotional ingredients you have unconsciously thrown into that pot since you woke up this morning. Was it chronic annoyance at traffic? Was it lingering frustration from an email?
Or was it patience? Was it deepest gratitude?
Look at the broth that is currently simmering in your mind and ask yourself, if you had to drink every single drop of that exact soup tomorrow, would it heal you or would it make you sick?